good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for introducing me. Can you hear me well? Because my computer has not a very high volume, so sometimes I rather prefer to remove the video and to use only my voice. So I don't know if I'm very well hearable.
We can hear you, I suppose. I can hear you at least. Yeah, we can hear you very well.
Thank you very much. So I would like to share my screen. And please tell me when it is ready, when you can see. Because it's still loading on my part.
We can see it. Yeah, thank you.
So yes, I would like to say some words about antispecism or antispecism and vegetarianism in ancient Greek philosophers. As I told, the word antispecism, or I'm trying to pass on another slide. Just a moment. Oh, okay. Antispecism or antispecism is a current philosophical and moral thought, as well as political and cultural movement that opposes specism, which refers to the attribution of a different value and moral status to individuals solely on the basis of their species and belonging. This philosophical current is formalized in 70s by Anglo-Saxon philosophers who defend the revival of animalism. And the main philosophers, the most famous philosophers of this current are Richard D. Ryder and Peter Singer, who developed the concept of antispecism, opposing it to specism. And many people assume that the diet, omnivorous diet, has been the only accepted diet from past to present. And many times the vegetarianism or veganism are considered quite a new trends. But if we look to the past, we can see that many past philosophers reveal a fierce debate not only over diet, but about the notion of justice and to whom it applies. So we can find in old Greek as well as Roman sources what kind of diet was practiced, was common during the past ages. And so we can see that this Mediterranean diet was based on cereals, vegetables, fruits, and that meat, like fish, fowl, or pigs, were also consumed, but only by the rich part of the population. And the first philosopher who, after, as we can see, was the first vegetarian, or the philosopher of vegetarianism, was Pythagoras, who was living between 6th and 5th century before Christ. He was coming from Samos. Samos was a part of the old empire of Greece, as well as Egypt and Iraq, and his area of teaching, of traveling, was quite vast. He thought that all animals, and not just humans, had souls, which were immortal and reincarnated after death. Since a human might become an animal at death, and an animal might become a human, Pythagoras believed that killing and eating non-human animals sullied the soul and prevented union with a higher form of reality. And this concept was probably taken from Indian philosophy, because Pythagoras, during his broad travels, he reached also India, and he was in contact with Hindu gymnosophists. Some quotations attributed to him, which we can find in the golden verses of Pythagoras, say, for example, the animals share with us the privilege of having a soul. Alas, what wickedness to swallow flesh into our own flesh, to fatten our greedy bodies by cramming in other bodies, to have one living creature fed by the death of another. In the midst of such wealth as earth, the best of mothers provides, yet nothing satisfies you. But to behave like the Cyclops, inflicting sorry wounds with cruel teeth, you cannot appease the hungry cravings of your wicked, gluttonous stomachs, except by destroying some other life. Or, as long as man continues to be the ruthless destroyer of lower living beings, he will never know health or peace. For as long as men massacre animals, they will kill each other. Indeed, he who sows the seed of murder and pain cannot reap joy and love. So Pythagoras was claiming the metempsychosis, or the transmigration of souls, which is the very Indian common concept. And he was studying under Hindu sages, gymnosophists in India, who are the naked sages, who are the most strict ascets, Indian ascets, of course, strictly vegetarians. He was putting his emphasis on dedication and asceticism, and he was proclaiming also communal lifestyle, means the belonging of each other was a belonging of all the other representatives of this communal lifestyle of his Pythagorean school. And his lifestyle was seeming a kind of monastery. The author, one Greek author, philosopher, theologian, poet, and critic, Xenophanes of Colophon, living almost contemporary with Pythagoras, he describes him interceding on behalf of a dog that is being beaten, professing to recognize in its cries the voice of a departed friend. Pythagoras was portrayed in 15th book of Ovid's Metamorphoses, where he delivers a speech imploring his followers to adhere to a strictly vegetarian diet. And this passage of Ovid's Metamorphoses has a very long legacy after. So, for example, Michel de Montaigne quoted this speech no less than 3 times in his treatise of cruelty, to voice his moral objections against the mistreatment of animals. In 1726, John Gayes, in his fable Pythagoras and the Countryman, reiterates its major themes, linking carnivorism with tyranny. Lord Chesterfield records that his conversion to vegetarianism had been motivated by reading Pythagoras' speech in Ovid's Metamorphoses. Until the word vegetarianism was coined only in the 1840, vegetarians before were referred to in English as Pythagoreans. Percy Bysshe Shelley wrote a note entitled to the Pythagorean diet. And also Leo Tolstoy adopted this diet himself. With Pythagoras, so he was linked not only with his Pythagoreanism, but also with Orphicism, which was a cult of Dionysus and which was a mysterious cult. And these two Greek religions, they were claiming the different way of life based on the concept of purity and purification, a form of asceticism and in its original sense, and also vegetarianism. Another philosopher who is known by his being a vegetarian or claiming vegetarianism was Heraclitus of Ephesus, who was living almost in the same period as Pythagoras, and he was, however, he was criticizing him rather cruelly, but anyhow, he's also considered one of the first vegetarians, even though his quotations from the only writings which reached to us only in fragments on nature, they are not so clearly, they are not talking so clearly about vegetarianism. To God, everything is beautiful, good, and just. Humans, however, think some things are unjust and others just. Corpses are more fit to be cast out than dung, and deliberate violence is more to be quenched than a fire. According to Heraclitus, human beings are bad, and also eating meat is bad. But as I told, his ideas are not so clearly linked to vegetarianism. Another one was Empedocles, living about 100 years after the two previous philosophers. He was from Acragas, and he justified vegetarianism by belief in the transmigrations of souls. He was a follower of Pythagoras, and he was deeply influenced by him. Who could guarantee that an animal about to be slaughtered did not house the soul of a human being? So again, we have this idea of a transmigration of souls, which is so present in Pythagoras and in Indian philosophy. He included also plants in these transmigrations, which is also a very common idea of Indian philosophers. He says that humans are unaware of the cycle of transmigration, and that is why they are able to commit murders by eating flesh. The verb in Greek for devouring is used of wild animals, highlighting the dehumanizing effect of being carnivorous. The legal language of the gods also returns in the human sphere, where all humans are bound by the injunction against killing. Will you not desist from evil-sounding murder? Do you not see that you are devouring each other in the carelessness of your mind? And this quotation comes from On Divine Nature. Empedocles spoke of an unspecified earlier time, apparently similar to the golden age of traditional mythology, when Aphrodite was queen of the universe. So he believed that the first religious beliefs of ancient Greeks were much more human and were much less aggressive, and they were a kind of preface to his vegetarianism. It was a great defilement to berate animals of life and eat their parts. The custom of sacrificial practice, which was used in Greek religion, was something later and something more barbar than the most ancient form of religion. Another Greek thinker who argued on behalf of animals was Plutarch. Plutarch was also a priest at the temple of Apollo. He was a Pythagorean, the follower of the Pythagorean philosophy, and also he adopted a vegetarian diet. And he wrote several essays, from which the most important is on the eating of flesh, where his arguments are very familiar to our contemporary vegetarianism. The human body is in no way resembles those that were born for ravenousness. It hath no hawk's bill, no sharp talon, no roughness of teeth, no such strength of stomach or heat of digestion, as can be sufficient to convert all alter such heavy and fleshy fare. The first man ventured to call food and nourishment the parts that had a little before beloved, and cried, moved and lived. How could his eyes endure the slaughter when throats were slit and hides flayed, and limbs torn from limb? How could his nose endure the stench? How was it that the pollution did not turn away his taste, which made contact with the source of others and sucked juices and serums from mortal wounds? But for the sake of some little mouthful of flesh, we deprived a soul of the sun and light, and of a proportion of life and time it had been born into the world to enjoy. And the last one about whom I would like to talk was a Phoenician Neoplatonic philosopher Porphyry, living already in our area circa 232 till 305 after Christ. He argued with observational and historical evidence in defense of vegetarianism and the rationality of animals. And his most important in this sense writing is on abstinence from animal food, where we can read the fleshless diet contributes to health and to a suitable endurance of hard work in philosophy. So here we can see another point of view, because the other philosophers were claiming ethical philosophy. Here we have also some other conveniences of not eating meat. I think that when friendship and perception of kinship ruled everything, no one killed any creature, because people thought the other animals were related to them. Animals are rational, in most of them logos is imperfect, but it is certainly not wholly lacking. So if, as our opponents say, justice applies to rational beings, why should not justice for us also apply to animals? The Pythagoreans made kindness to beasts a training in humanity and pity. So people should abstain from other animals just as they should from the human, means from eating other animals. So as we can see, vegetarianism and animal rights have a long history in Western civilization, starting from an ancient Greek philosophy. The modern animal rights movement is built upon the past. Thank you very much.